Good morning. My name is John Tucker, and I am serving as your worship associate this morning. We're so glad that you've joined us here in the hall and through your screen. In preparation for our service, please pull out your device and turn off the ringer so that we may all enjoy a service without interruption. Welcome to the Edmonds Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a pluralistic community of seekers, humanists, theists, atheists, agnostics, and everything in between. We are committed to treating each other with compassion and respect, learning from one another, and sharing our resources in a just world. We gather weekly to connect, to wrestle with life's big questions, and to rededicate ourselves to living our Unitarian Universalist values of justice, equity, generosity, pluralism, transformation, interdependence, and love. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, here and online, welcome. We're pleased to welcome our guest minister, Reverend Dr. Silvia Behrend. She has been working in the field of human consciousness for over 35 years as a minister, educator, consultant, speaker, and is currently in private practice in Olympia. Dr. Behrend has lectured nationally and internationally on feminism, the creative imperative, developed and implemented curricula and programs for all ages. She has served as a consultant to churches, congregations, and educational institutions, both locally and internationally. There's a welcome desk after the service for those of you interested in learning more about us. If you're online, you can go to euuc.org and click the tab that says I'm new, and then click what are you interested in. If you're here at Chapman Hall, please join us for coffee hour out the double doors at the back of this hall for a hot beverage. We'll be in here, in the narthex, and out on the playground with kids of all ages. Children are welcome in all parts of our service, and we remind ourselves that the noises they make are sacred and holy. And now we open the service with our land acknowledgement. Let us remember that our congregational home, this site on which we are gathered this morning, is placed on the ancestral lands of the Snohomish people who have inhabited this region of the Salish Sea since time immemorial, and who continue their livelihoods on these lands today. May we all live and learn humbly as allies to the Snohomish.
Each week, we commit and complete a sign and a signal of our faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism, by placing a flame in the bowl of this beautiful chalice. Our chalice words this morning come from my time as Minister of Religious Education in the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. In our tradition, we honor and uphold the truth. We speak our truth in love, and we use our resources to act in the world with integrity of heart and mind. Did you see that? Heart and mind are connected, they're not separate. And with the energy of action to bring what is true that we love out into the world. And as you saw, I did 3 signs when I told about the chalice lighting. So if you will read along with me, and we'll do the chalice lighting twice, I'm going to invite you to do it with, we light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action. Please join with me. We light this chalice for the light of truth, for the warmth of love, and for the energy of action. Now let's do it again. We light this chalice for the light of truth, for the warmth of love, and for the energy of action.
We need more energy here.
Yeah. Rise up, O flame. You know what this means, right? Our light shall never be put out as long as we lead. As you'll see, we will have our affirmation up in just a second. Please participate in saying the affirmation in any way that is comfortable for you. Please join me. We need each other, and so we come to this place to work and dance and laugh and cry and think. We call ourselves a religious community, not because this place is itself holy ground, but because of what we do here and say here and are here, make it so. So let it be. We invite you to rise in body and spirit as you are comfortable, to join in singing hymn number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. A time for all ages. I love that. It's a time for those of us who actually are young, age-wise, and for those of us who are young, in spite of these bodies that change over time. I know that none of you are affected by it. And so at this time, I would like to invite those in the congregation, children or anyone who wants to, for all of you to come down and sit over here if that's what you'd like to do. Come on down. I think I feel like Vanna White right now. Come on down. Or you can stay if you like. That's totally fine too, right? We can choose. And that's what I'd like to tell you the story of two women who choose. Come on down, honey. Yeah, good. The courage to choose between saying no and saying yes. And this story comes from part of what our Unitarian Universalist tradition is of looking at the books, right, that have come before it, that have wisdom to tell us, how do we be human in this world? So this is from the book of Esther. Now, before I tell the story, I'm going to need everybody to participate, and I hope you enjoy this because we don't get to do this very much. I'm going to use the name of a person who's really not really very nice. His name is, I'll tell you in a second, because the moment I say his name, I'm going to invite you to make the nastiest sounds you can. If you want to make a sound, you can boo, you can hiss, you can go whatever you like, okay? And this is the name. Is everybody ready for the name? Haman. Perfect. Okay, so here's how the story starts. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a king named Xerxes. And Xerxes had this wonderful kingdom, and so what he did to show his power, his golden, you know what I'm going to say, right? The patio, he calls all of the people, and he has this great banquet, all with the men, because that's what they did at that time. His queen Vashti, who was beautiful, young, smart, accomplished, had her banquet with the women. Now, one time during the night, during the banquet, Xerxes says, I want Queen Vashti to come because I want everyone to see what a beautiful wife I have. Ha. Now, what you have to know is that if you ever say no to the king, do you know what happens to you? You know. Okay, so he sends these three guys whose names I don't remember because they're about this long, over to Queen Vashti. They say, Queen Vashti, our royal beloved king wants you to come and show yourself to all the men in the country. Nah, says Vashti. Now Vashti knew that if she said no, really, it was life or death. To say no sometimes is dangerous. And so instead, she says to the three men, please give the king my regards, but no. Back to Xerxes. When Xerxes hears this, he says, this cannot be. Get her out of here. Vashti is turned away. And so King Xerxes has to find what? You got it, another queen. So here's where Mordecai comes in. Mordecai was in the king's inner circle, and he brings his daughter, adoptive daughter, Esther, to be one of the hundreds of beautiful young women who were brought to see who was going to be the next queen. Everything's great. Who do you think King Xerxes chooses? Esther. Of course. Now, one thing that King Xerxes doesn't know is that Esther's Jewish. In fact, he's clueless about a lot of things. So what happens? Haman comes around and he whispers in King Xerxes' ears and said, you know what? There are Jews here who don't believe the same things you do. There are people in your kingdom who don't deserve to live because of what they think and who they worship. And you know what King Xerxes said? He said, so Haman, what do you want me to do? And Haman says, kill them all. Okay, says King Xerxes. He didn't ask any questions. When Mordecai heard this, imagine, his heart was broken. He cried in sackcloth for 3 days outside the gates, and Esther said, but Mordecai, what's wrong? And he says, Esther, you have to go to the king. You have to go to the king and save your people. And Esther, she's 14 years old. Okay? You remember being 14? Some of you are going to be 14. But why me? And Mordecai says, Esther, because you were born for such a time as this. And Esther says, okay, I'll go to the king. Luckily, she didn't get killed. The king let her talk to him, and the king says, what would you like, my beautiful queen? And she says, will you please invite Haman to dinner with you and me? And Haman thinks, mwah, dinner with the king and queen. When they come to dinner, Esther tells the king, you know, Haman is out to kill me and all my people all over your kingdom. And Xerxes says, what? Like this is the first time he's heard of it? And he says, let it be done to Haman what he wanted to do to the people. Esther said yes. The people were saved. The courage to say no is the same courage to say yes, because it comes from heart. Courage comes from heart. So, when somebody asks you to do something that in your heart you know is wrong, even if it costs you, you say no. Nobody can touch you if you don't want to be touched. No one can make you do anything if you don't want to do it because it isn't right here. And the courage to say yes, even if it means whatever it means you show up. You don't stay silent. You don't side with those who are out to destroy. You say, yes, here I am, and here I stand. That is the story, actually, of Vashti and Esther. May it be so. Go, girls! Let's not forget Mordecai, because he had a little bit of a hand on it. And so, would you please join me in singing the children out? They will be going to RE rooms 1 and 2 for Children's Chapel. Please join us in singing. There's a wonderful word in Italian, and that word is accogliere. Accogliere means welcome, but it has deeper dimensions. To accogliere really means to be brought in. It's related to raccogliere, which means to harvest. So when I sent the email that I would be more than happy, in fact, thrilled to be here, I was accogliata. I was brought in to the warmth and the grace and the generosity of this congregation by Reverend Natalie. First of all, she's lovely, as you well know. And then Cynthia Grace, who took my phone calls, is like, because I've never done this with this. I used to, wait a second, which I brought just in case, right? She soothed my concerns with John Tucker, lovely conversations. Are we doing this? What's this? What's that? And of course, Alana Desrochers. I felt brought into this community. And this speaks to your affirmation, because this congregation lives what it professes, and I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm going to share some reflections on the nature of good and evil. So during the first term of the current administration, I prepared a 6-week series webinars entitled Women of the Bible for Such a Time as This. As you remember, what Mordecai said to her, maybe you were born for such a time as this. And then in preparation, I realized, from the beginning of time, it's always been for such a time as this, right? We've been called to this over and over and over again from the beginning of time. So as I share my reflections today, just a quick word about language. I'm going to be using the word God, the numinous, the unconscious, psyche, the ground of all being, because, like Paul Tillich said, we want to talk about the God beyond the God, the reality that exists without our projections onto it. Whatever you call it, or call it nothing, because where it exists is in the human relationship, in the connections that we have with and among one another, with the ground of our being, with the ether, with those of you who are sitting in your living rooms or wherever you are. We're all connected. That's what we're talking about. It's Martin Buber's I-thou relationship. And this relationship really is contingent about humans, but the reality also is that creation, that which exists beyond our corporeality, will exist with or without us. Let's hope that we do our part to continue to be with. I'm going to ask you to please join me in reading Out of the Stars, number 130, and we will read antiphonally. That means I will start, and then you will please read and join as you're willing and able with the bolded and capitalized section. Okay? I love Robert Weston. He captures this mystery in words. Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here have we come. Stardust and sunlight mingling through time and through space.
Out of the stars have we come, up from time. Out of the stars have we come.
Time out of time before time. In the vastness of space, earth with the thunder of mountains new-born, the boiling of seas. Mystery hidden in mystery, back through all time, mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea.
Out of the stars, rising from rocks and the sea, kindled by sunlight on earth, arose life.
Ponder this thing in your heart, life up from the sea. Eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love.
Life from the sea, warmed by sun, washed by rain. Life from within, giving birth, rose to love.
This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon earth rose to love.
This is the marvel of life.
Thank you. I invite you now into a moment of stillness, however you're comfortable. Quiet. May solace come upon you, power rise within you, and peace settle in your heart. May solace come upon you, power rise within you, and peace settle in your heart. May it be so. I didn't know it, but last week in preparation for this sermon, I had a dream. I was driving my car. I love my car. My husband doesn't. She talks to me. She helps me get where I'm going. But in this dream, I was driving along and kind of was bumping into things. You ever had that moment? Yeah, bumping up on the curb. Car was driving by and there was like kind of a little scratch, right? And I really felt like everywhere I was driving there was something happening, but I never crashed. Nothing got hurt. Didn't have to go to the mechanic. Right? And when I woke up, I thought, I need to analyze this dream because I'm certified as a dream pattern analyst. And I started and then I said, no. I got quiet. And the truth be told, I cried a little. I was feeling sadness and tenderness because isn't that exactly how it is to be human? We bump along, we do our best, we get a scratch, but we don't crash. And it would make sense, and it did make sense that I got that dream before this sermon, because I knew that when I woke up in the morning, I would be reading about the newest, worstest thing than that of the day before. And you know, I was not wrong. I wasn't wrong this morning either. There are times when I would like to be wrong. Ask my husband, that's very few. I won't belabor the many horrors we wake up to every morning because from our Universalist tradition, we want to offer hope and not hell. And our Unitarian tradition says we have the power and the ability to think. It's much more complex than that. But for me, it's a beautiful marriage of eros and logos. And we balance both. So I realized that all along, I've been doing my best, like all of us, well, maybe like many of us, to get where I'm supposed to be going. But it's rough out there. And we're going to get jarred. We're going to get scratched. And we're not giving up. So I also had to think, well, what exactly is it that I'm being called to drive through? Simple, really. I'm being called to differentiate between good and evil and to do as much good as I can. And I have to be able to think about it in the way that our ancestors in their myths and stories taught us about how to be human in such a time as this. Now, I chose the book of Esther because, now just imagine this. I don't know, some of you may know it. It is the only book in the Bible. The only book in the Bible in which God is not mentioned once. Right. God is not mentioned once. Who are the heroes and the heroines, or the heroines and hero of the story? Two young women, one a 14-year-old. We don't know how old Queen Vashti was. And then an old Jewish guy. Okay? They faced tyranny, objectification. And in this book, there is no transcendent deity who comes to the rescue. It was only up to them. You see? It's really only up to us. And I could end the sermon right there because that's where we're going anyway. But no, I'm going to tell you about good and evil. Because. So when I was in seminary in 1992, you do the math, I fell in love with process theology. I almost said process, and I'm not Canadian. You may have heard some of their names: Alfred North Whitehead, Charles Hartshorne, Paul Tillich, and my most beloved mentor of the mind, Henry Nelson Wyman. Now, I didn't fall in love with his writing style because it is of the times, and when I was in seminary, we would always laugh at these old Western white men as though, but they carried a wisdom, and they carried a commitment to build a structure of thought, a philosophy that could be stood upon because it was so necessary. Process theologians understood, recognized, and advocated for that creation is an ongoing process. It is an evolution, an ongoingness, and that the creative event uses anything in order to create a reality, and that can transcend the human. That's what Robert Weston was talking about. We may choose or not choose to continue the good for humanity, but if we perish, the stars will continue to shine whether we're here or not. And at some point, some little life from under the sea will come up, because life itself wants to live. Carl Jung tells us the world hangs by a thin thread, and we are the great danger because we know nothing about the psyche. So it's imperative that we know something. So if we want to understand what evil is, we first have to understand what is the good. And here's where it gets a little tricky, because we're going to be talking about absolutes. There is an absolute good and there's an absolute evil. Our culture that is relativistic and individualistic does not like absolutes. Whatever I think is good is good. We can disagree. Let's agree to disagree. But I beg to differ, because I stand with my predecessors who were not afraid to acknowledge that there does accept and exist an absolute good that is predicated not by a benevolent God who is so good that he will overcome evil at the end of times, nor of a God who takes place in history. It's up to the human to do so. It follows that if there is an absolute good, what else is there? Absolute evil. And that's a reality we're even less willing, or some of us, to accept, right? Evil is not the absence of good. If everything is relative, good or evil, then we have no solid ground, and any stance is as good as another. And I know this is problematic because there's a danger and a reality that others claim that certainty for themselves. It is absolutely good, right, that we destroy others because of what they believe, what they look like, who they love. You know what I'm talking about, because Unitarian Universalists have fought against this demonization from the beginning of time, because we also arose as two different movements that joined together because it was necessary for those times, and we're still in that tradition in our affirmations. So, what's absolute good? It's good that is true for people of all time, from the beginning of time. And absolute good grows in complexity, and that complexity is based on not goods, but in the interweaving of relationship, in enriching the tapestry and the complexity of what it means to be in relation, both with the creative ongoing event and with other humans. My beloved Henry Nelson Wyman talks about the creative event that imbues with meaning. The creative event which is in the way that one is. And this is what he says about Jesus. I relish in these words. This was written in 1949, he says, and I quote, "Not something handed down to them from Jesus, but something rising up out of their midst is creative power is the important thing. It was not something Jesus did. It was something that happened when he was present, like a catalytic agent. It was as if he was a neutron that started a chain reaction of creative transformation. Something about this man, Jesus, broke the atomic exclusiveness of those individuals so that they were deeply and freely receptive and responsive to each other. Listen, he split the atom of human egoism by being the kind of person that he truly was. He split the atom of human egoism. That's what he's talking about, the isness of the relationship between the human and the creative ongoingness. So what's evil? Evil doesn't destroy. What evil does is it obstructs. And that's its greatest danger, because it serves the interest of the human, fueled by greed, lust, and power. In 1949, when he was writing, he did this example. He said, it's always good for all people at all time to have good clean water, healthcare, education, a place to live. Just think of Maslow's pyramid, right? You were thinking about that, yes? And the United Nations Resolution on Human Rights. Okay, that's what the absolute good is for all people at all time. And then he says, but when a Hitler comes along and provides a better good, a better standard of living, then that good becomes an evil, because it's based on creating divisions between those who can enjoy the good and those who are enemies of that good. Thus, evil is based on human self-interest that narrows and obstructs the good in the very name of good. 1949. Our now assailed Constitution says that we're all created equal. Our principles assure us that we're all interconnected, valued, respected, And that is absolutely true at the core and essence of our humanity. But we live in what Wyman calls the human predicament. And just like process theologians don't question whether God exists, what they question is how God exists. And that's my question. Not how do we as human exist, but how do we human? You remember that Paul says, "For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I don't want to do. This is what I keep on doing." And he says, "Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it's no longer I who does it, but the sin living in me that does it." Quick word about sin. Another one of those phrases we don't like because it's predicated on a religiosity that says we are born unworthy, and only when we adhere to these strict regulations can we then become worthy. No. In the Jewish tradition, sin is only this, nothing more and nothing less, and that is to lose the mark, to sever the relationship from soul, from what Jung called the antique soul, that vivifying connectedness. When we sin, it's not that we're doing something bad or wrong because we're inherently, is that we lose our connection. And then, you know, we're in the days of awe, right? On October 1st, Yom Kippur, the celebration of our connectedness. What do? Teshuvah. We turn back. That's what we're being called to do. So how do we do that? You know, I've never called him Henry. I always say Henry Nelson Wyman out of respect. He says, "We must be broken. We must be broken because there is a good so great that it breaks the bounds of our littleness. We must be broken because there is a power which works in our lives to achieve a good we cannot compass and cannot discern. Our own anticipatory vision is always too narrow, biased, and self-centered to comprehend it. We must be broken because above the breakdown and the ruin of plans and persons and ages and nations, we are carried on great wings. And I add, on great wings of love." I'd like to close by sharing a story that moves us beyond or into a non-Western Judeo-Christian view of the world. In 2018, I had the great pleasure, honor, and privilege of presenting 2 talks on exile in Bogota, Colombia. It was transformational not only because it was incredible, but because my parents in 1962 had to leave Argentina, had to be exiled because, people are nodding, Eichmann was extradited. The banks foreclosed my father's business. And in fact, just before that, I have the plans of how he had planned to expand. So being there in my own language, where talking like this was normal, okay? I know it's a shock for introverts. When I was teaching, I'd always tell my students, if you're an introvert, sit in the back, okay? But there, I was normal. That wasn't the only gift. Part of the whole gathering is that shamans from the Kogi people were invited to do a workshop. The Kogi's cosmogony goes like this. In the beginning, Aluna and the mamas sat in the dark cave inside the earth, and they thought the world into being. They thought nature and the harmonies between and among humans, and they taught the people how to live in exquisite harmony knowing that the land and the people and the thought and energy were one. Isn't that lovely? And then the translator for the shaman says, well, when you make something, when you're thinking about what you're making, be careful what you're thinking about. Don't create junk. Energy follows thought. And that was great. I thought, but there was more. The shaman then, through the translator, we all have papers, he says, please write a letter to, just please write a letter. And I went, I know this one. Because when I was leading workshops and classes and so on, I would frequently ask the students, the participants, write a letter to yourselves, and in 6 months, I'm going to send it back to you. And I thought, Whew. The next thing that he said was, write the letter for those who will be reading it in 1,000 years. In that moment, my Argentine colleague who was sitting across, like maybe the two of you are sitting across, lost it. You know ugly cry? You familiar with ugly cry? We called ourselves Sisters of the Snot. Las hermanas de los mocos. To know that 1,000 years from now, our actions, our thoughts, our beliefs are going to matter. I matter. You matter. We all matter. And my hope and my prayer is that we know that we are enough for such a time as this. Amen. And may it be so. Please join me as you're able and willing in our closing hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
our reflections ritual. A kind word or a thoughtful act, like a pebble dropped in water, sends ripples out into the world. Should you wish to make a promise or let go of one, remember someone, release a bit of pain, forgive yourself or someone else, or otherwise mark some important event or occasion, please step forward and quietly send your thoughts outward as you drop a pebble into the water, mingling the ripples of your intention with the ripples of other people in our community. During this quiet time, please feel free to come forward and place a pebble in the water. Please approach together from both aisles at the same time. As usual, approach by the outer aisles and return by the center. I will drop one pebble for all those whom we wish were here today with us, and another for all those who wish they were here.
of you online, know that whatever you dropped from your heart, whether you could do it in presence or not, whatever your joys and concerns are, they are included in this.
If you're new to our gathering, know that EUC's weekly offering does not support the ongoing operations of this congregation, as we support our congregation through generous yearly pledges. Our Sunday offering is dedicated to support the organizations which align with and extend the mission of this congregation, gathering together, nurturing the spirit, living our vision of a just and sustainable world. The September cause of the month is Hello Nurse, nominated by Jason Hendrickson, a 501c3 nonprofit and free web resource. HelloNurse.com was created to empower medically complex families and individuals during their search for in-home nursing. The funds donated by EUC will help them to continue to connect families with medically complex needs with nurses who can help them. The Sunday Offering Committee expresses their gratitude for your generosity and reminds you that if there is an organization that you wish to nominate for the Sunday Cause of the Month, please nominate them at euc.org/Sunday Offering. You may donate using the QR code or go to the EUC website and click Donate. For those of you in here, there are baskets out in the narthex through the doors underneath the screen on the wall. Please be generous within the limits of your budget. Now, for information about what's happening around here by and for EUC members. Number one, EUC Annual Report. The annual report from 2024 to 25, the church year, is complete. It's available for viewing in the operations and planning part of EUC's new social media platform, Circle. If you need help setting up Circle, email Circle at admin@euc.org. You can also email the office to get a copy of the report. Number two, Community Engagement Committee makes breakfast burritos for First Sunday. Next week is the first Sunday meal on October 5th, and the folks of the Community Engagement Committee will be serving us with the same meal they fix for our neighbors in need. We can learn more about how the Community Engagement Committee addresses hunger, homelessness, and poverty in our local community. Come enjoy a meal and learn how you can be involved. Contact Community Engagement at euc.org for more information. We need a garden volunteer coordinator. Do you want to help with our giving garden, which provides help fresh produce to local food banks, but not get your hands dirty? Consider becoming a volunteer coordinator. Please stop by the social justice desk in the narthex and learn more. You can learn more by community engagement at euc.org. Number four, Drum Circle. Let's see, the next EUC Drum Circle is Thursday, October 9th, from 7 to 10 in Chapman Hall. Come have fun making in-the-moment music with others. This month, we will learn a fun two-part rhythm and then move to more improvisational music creation. All skill levels are welcome. Bring your own drum or other percussion, or you can borrow them here. Dancing and singing are welcome too. Any questions, reach out to Cindy Olia. Books we love discussion group. This is a different kind of book group. Rather than everyone reading the same book, each person has a chance to talk about a book they read recently and recommend it to others. There are no rules about what types of books to discuss or what to say. We meet on the third Monday of every month at 7 o'clock via Zoom. We'd love to have your recommendations and perspective. For more information or to register, contact Stephen Cunliffe through Breeze or visit Adult Enrichment page on the EUC website. And that's the end of our pulpit announcements. As always, check on the screens in the narthex for other things going on. And finally, we give thanks to all of you who make this Sunday service possible and the work of this congregation possible. Now for releasing the flame.
Join me in the words printed on the screen as we release the flame of our burning chalice. We release this flame, but not the light of truth. We release this flame, but not the warmth of this community. We release this flame, but not the fire of our commitment. These we will carry in our hearts until we meet again. Friends, the service begins as our service ends. Go in peace. Practice love. Amen. Make sure you turn your ringer back on and go in peace and practice love. Never get tired of practice. Amen.